Hello, everyone, and welcome in to crushthestreet.com. I got a brand new guest on the line with me today, Chris Langlois, co-founder of Crypto Equities, Inc. And I think we're going to have a great conversation today. We're going to really discuss what is going on in the sector. Obviously, we've seen cryptocurrencies come off their highs in January, end of December here, and we're in this kind of consolidation, bear market, pullback phase. But, it's really going to be about what's fundamentally happening now and what has been happening over the last few years that really takes this sector forward despite the euphoria, despite all that's going on. And Chris actually co-founded a merchant bank. That's what Crypto Equities is, which is focused on democratization and evolution of finance using smart contracts and blockchain technology to develop asset-backed tokens. He's passionate about his work and, most importantly, his family. So anyways, we're going to be having a great conversation today talking about crypto markets and what is going on. Chris, thanks for coming on Crush the Street with me today.
Thanks for having me, Kenneth. I appreciate it.
Well, Chris, let's start off with this. I read the headline news this morning on Cointelegraph, and Jamie Dimon returns to calling Bitcoin a scam, further suggesting governments may move to shut down the currencies because of an inability to control them. We've seen this before, and we've heard him talk about this in the past, and it just seems like it's water off the back of, off the market. And I'd like to ask you, what are your thoughts going on right now? And do you believe that there's any merit to what Jamie Dimon is calling Bitcoin?
There's always going to be ups and downs with Bitcoin. Anything that's going to be new and entering the market. Bitcoin is certainly has pioneered and has set the stage for the crypto market. Bitcoin itself, in my opinion, I think it's a great way to store value. It's a way to exchange a form of currency in a different medium. But as far as it's a scam, I don't believe so. I think it's the future. The cryptocurrency world is the future. I'm sure there's been, specifically in the utility token market, the ICO market, there have certainly been some scams in the ICO market. There's been a lot of volatility, and there's certainly some truth to that. But overall, the future is the evolution of finance. The ICO market does need to be refined a little bit. When you look at some of these ICOs, especially back in 2017 and early on, a lot of these ICOs, they raised a lot of capital really, really quick. And as we started launching Crypto Equities specifically, we poured over hundreds of these papers and the white paper investment documents. And we noticed that there are certainly some red flags. They lacked management. There's a high risk associated with them. The investments weren't secured. And in many cases, there really wasn't even a minimal viable product. Now, even though that some of these companies may have lacked proper architecture as far as developing their tokens, I still think there's a scam. Sure, there were some out there. There were some bad actors. But calling Bitcoin and the general market a scam, I truly don't believe so.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And I can imagine you probably have a lot of insight as to, how a lot of these coins came online and, the scams behind a lot of these ICOs. I read some statistic the other day, and I don't know how much of a blanket statement it was, but they said that 80% of the ICOs that happened in 2017 were scams. And so I'm not sure what kind of statement, what the scam was defined as, but point well taken on that front there in terms of, what's been happening, what's been going on. So I guess with that, though, what's your sentiment with the overall market? Obviously, we don't see a lot of companies right now raising money the way they were able to in 2017. It's just a different environment with the pullbacks that we've seen in Bitcoin and throughout the rest of the space. I think I saw Bitcoin now in the $6,000 range again. It was up to $88,000 range just a few days ago or whatever it was. And now we're back. And so it's not that confidence that's been instilled, that we saw this time last year, just everything going up and up and up. So that enthusiasm isn't behind the market the way it was. So I'm curious, what is your sentiment now? Where's your focus? And what do you believe the future of, a lot of these tokens are? And ultimately, what do you expect like the prices to do with some of these?
Yeah, I mean, with the ICO market, especially like you mentioned in 2017, it absolutely exploded. Bitcoin was somewhere almost 20,000 per coin. A lot of that was driven by FOMO, the fear of missing out, and I think Ripple made like a 36,000% increase. But going back to like some of the previous comments, is there really wasn't anything behind some of these projects. It's like, hey, give me all this money, I'm going to go develop something in the future, and I'm going to give you this token exchange in hopes for making a return on your investment or profit on that token. The market, in my opinion, has since kind of wisened up and has kind of learned their lesson through some calluses. And now we're going through what I'm calling crypto 2.0 phase, which we're moving away from the ICO, which is some of the poorly architected utility tokens. Not all of them, but unfortunately a good portion of them. I think I saw a stat that 56% of all ICOs have failed. And then another statistic of that only a handful have actually sold on a secondary market higher than what their pre-ICO was. So the market's evolving, it's changing. And to do that, we need to embrace some of these regulations and security token offerings. So what we're doing with Crypto Equities, and we did this and sort of learned this by developing Mineral Coin, which is one of our first asset-backed cryptos. My partner, Garrett Krause, he acquired a bauxite mine in Guinea, Africa. And we started looking at alternative ways to raise capital for the exploration of the mine and mining operations. Long story short, we came across the ICOs. ICOs are awesome from the standpoint its ability to be fractional, secure, liquid for investors, and it breaks up a lot of those capital controls, putting the investor, the token holder, in charge of their exit plan, which is far different than some of the traditional ways. And it's also on a 24/7 global trading marketplace. But even though that we knew that this was a great vehicle, when we were looking back at these white papers and ICOs, we noticed that there was a gap. And coming forward to overcome that gap and to further this market, we are embracing regulations and the codified rights of regulation. So we want to not only be profitable, we are providing intrinsic value and market value to our company and to our issued tokens. That means we are actually putting something behind the tokens and backing them up. For Mineral Coin, for example, we're putting up our global portfolio of minerals to back up those tokens. So if something were to go awry, something happens, then on the sale of the assets, the token holders will get paid back first to provide that intrinsic value and more stability. And another thing that you always saw with the ICOs is you get this pump. People would go on the ICO and then they would dump all their money for a quick return, which, I mean, great for them, but for the market, it didn't instill a lot of confidence. So other things that we're doing differently is we're going to be doing some dividend shares for our cryptos. So that way we want to build a brand of ambassadors. We want to not only make sure that they're profitable and they have the opportunity to liquidate at their convenience, but we also want them to hold onto their token through the profitability of the company. And these are some of the key factors that I think are going to push the market forward. And I mentioned security tokens. The securities market in itself is absolutely ginormous. I think in 2016, some of the market values from the three major types, which is equity, debt, and derivatives, the total value of equity was 67 trillion, debt was 99 trillion, and then derivatives is 1.2 quadrillion. And as we blend the traditional finance and the equity and these markets, and the market starts adopting and has confidence, you're going to see the crypto market absolutely blossom. I think there's some projections out there that this market could hit $10 trillion by 2020.
Well, that's powerful, and I completely agree. I think there's just a lot of money on the sideline still waiting to enter the sector, and a lot of opportunity ahead. So you touched on it, kind of like the developments of what is going on, kind of the transition of where we were last year with the utility tokens and things transitioning to security tokens in certain ways. Let's talk a little bit more. Maybe give us the background on what it is that you guys do and how that pertains to the future of crypto. And you call, I know it's called a merchant bank. I believe you call it a merchant bank focused on.
Correct.
So when I hear merchant bank, I think of somebody who handles my Visa transactions, or takes my card at a point of sale, like a merchant bank. And so, I mean, what is a merchant bank exactly, and how does that pertain to the future of crypto?
Sure. So in our eyes, we see as a merchant bank as an entity that deals in international finance and business. For companies in underwriting, for crypto equities, we are just more of niche, where we're specifically around the crypto market. So we're going to be launching a series of sector-specific tokenized funds, which are going to be mineral coin, which is commodities and minerals. We're looking at the cannabis industry. We're looking at real estate. We're looking at private equity. We're looking at doing a tokenized fund for Africa, which is sort of the last frontier. And my business partner, Garrett, has a ton of connections out there. He's done a ton of work. And we're also looking at doing some other funds. But they're all going to have a common premise: to build that security, to welcome more investors, not just the millennials or the retail investors. We want to design our tokens, architect them in a way that's going to draw attention of more of the masses and institutional investors. So we're doing a common premise with all of our tokens, that they're going to be backed by a real asset. They're going to be some sort of dividend share, and it's going to embed the traditional financing and underwriting techniques with the new school blockchain and smart contract technology to kind of build this perfect landscape and ecosystem for the evolution of finance.
So Chris, and I guess for further clarification, understanding, where
Sure.
does the liquidity for these tokens come from? In other words, is it an extension of another market that conventionally already exists, or does it need to attract a whole other world of people willing to invest in crypto, and specifically this asset? Or is it already an extension of another market that kind of converts over into this security token that you're talking about?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a mix of both. If you look at the crypto market, I can't remember the last time or the last number, but somewhere right around 350 billion, which is still fantastic because we're still in our infancy. But if you look at the larger market, and we talked about the securities market, it's in the trillions of dollars. So crypto in itself is still in its infancy. There's still some growth that needs to take place. And it's going to happen. And that's why we're trying to design and do things differently to welcome investors that really want to get into the crypto world, but have been very hesitant due to these red flags, which obviously we've discussed earlier. Now, the liquidity part, so they can invest in a fund or invest in crypto equities, and they're going to get a token in return, a security token that is compliant with U.S. and foreign regulations. And then they can go ahead onto an exchange, and they can liquidate it at their convenience and trade it on a secondary market. Now, there's not a true secondary market yet that is super competitive or that abides by all the regulations. But there's companies out there that are backed by millions and millions of dollars, like T0, that's setting that up. So although we're not setting up that secondary market, we're still trucking forward. We're still moving forward, knowing that it's going to take place.
So Chris, let's talk a little bit about the tokens themselves. Is it something that has already some sort of established protocol, or some sort of established, I guess, boundaries that the community has agreed upon and said, hey, this is legitimate enough, and this is what a security token needs to have? How do people know that your security token is defined well enough to fulfill its purpose? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask.
So I'm trying to, I think there's two questions that were answered there. For our tokens, we've got a series that obviously we're going to launch, and then we're going through the proper regulations and the proper exemptions to ensure that we're compliant with, specifically, let's say, the SEC, which means the anti-money laundering, the know your customers, the KYC, accredited investor, non-accredited investor. So we're going through the proper protocols, the proper exemptions to ensure that we're compliant and to ensure that the token holders themselves are compliant. Does that answer your question?
Sure. And then I guess, just like the ERC20 token was like a token that, the community said, hey, we trust this works, this does what we need it to do. For these security tokens, is there some sort of agreed upon, I'm limited on my understanding of how it work, but is there some sort of agreed upon structure for that token that gives people the confidence that a dividend can be issued, and there's limitations, and there's some sort of trust that can be put into this to know that it's going to fulfill its purpose?
Yeah, so Ethereum in itself, and there's some other protocols out there, but Ethereum has different, I don't know how to explain this, but like subsidiary tokens like the ERC20. They have the tokenizing of shares, which I think is an ERC 884, and there's a couple different that are on Ethereum. We're still waiting for them, not waiting, but we haven't officially launched our tokens yet, so we're waiting to see what does come of that. Right now, Ethereum's got a boatload of developers that are already going to be doing this. A lot of it's going to be built right into the smart contract so that it's all automated.
Got it. Well, no, it's definitely very exciting. So what then is the purpose of having multiple tokens? If you could just kind of clarify. I understand what the purpose is in terms of it's like essentially a different fund. It's another share that you buy. But
exactly.
People who may not fully understand that, they think the token is fiat, like or equivalent to just your dollars that you're buying, but it's not, right? It's the share that you're buying in the asset that you're buying into. So maybe just explain that further, because I think it can be convoluted, because Bitcoin, for people who are just casual listeners, they know that as the money. So how is that
correct?
A share, right?
Yeah, cryptocurrencies. To simplify this, think of cryptocurrency as programmable money. Now, security tokens are more like programmable equity. Now, they act more as equity and dividends than they do a specific cryptocurrency specifically. Now, for our tokens, we are doing specific tokenized funds. One, again, for real estate. We're doing one for cannabis. We're doing one for specifically a cash flow debt dividend fund, one for Africa. And we're doing these specific funds so that way investors can go ahead and they can diversify their portfolio within a sector that they like. So if you really, really like real estate and you're really confident in it, but you don't know exactly if you want to invest in just one entity or do a REIT, you can actually do our real estate, which is called Red Dollar, which is our token that we're going to be launching. And you're diversified because we're doing several projects within this fund. And you can still spend time and really focus in on the real estate if you don't want to do maybe the cannabis industry, or vice versa. If you're really in tune to the cannabis industry, and we have a tokenized fund for that, where we're helping projects and companies continue to further their development and operations, you can invest in that through us, through the fund, and you can still liquidate and have all the benefits of blockchain and smart contract technology.
So, Chris, and this kind of is supplemental to what you're saying, so continue if you will. But is the dividends, can they be whatever you choose them to be? Can it be paid out in dollars? Will it be paid out in more tokens? How does that work? And is it very
Yep.
flexible?
Yeah, so there is some flexibility to it. What we are doing is in the form of dividends, you're either going to get a form of currency such as, let's say, Bitcoin, or we may do added shares for that tokenized fund. It'll be another form of cryptocurrency, if that makes sense, not fiat. Because we don't know, we have the wallet ID and we can send the cryptocurrency dividends to their wallet, but we can't really send fiat currency specifically.
Now, is that just because of the way you guys set it up, or is there opportunities for fiat and crypto to be merged?
That's how we certainly set it up and kind of how the cryptocurrency is merged. I'm not sure of a way to effectively send fiat currency to token holders when we only have their wallet ID. There may be that possibility in the future, and especially when you're working with some of these secondary exchanges, there may be some options in the future, but today I don't believe there is.
Yeah, no, I guess it would just, in my head, it's almost diversifying within the crypto. You have some of the crypto, which is the token, but then,
Yeah.
for the cash flow, you might get something else. And it seems like diversification, if somebody was looking for that and not wanting to go head first into it, but that might not even be the best approach anyway. So,
and if you, I was gonna say, if you do get Bitcoin, at the end of the day, you can still go on exchange and then trade that for fiat currency. So in a way, in a roundabout way, you can certainly get to that point.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, I really appreciate your time with me here today at crushthestreet.com. I really feel like you helped us go to the next level in understanding the future of what's going on in the sector by really just sharing with us what you're doing. I mean, you're a thought leader, you're an entrepreneur, you're somebody who has seized the moment to take advantage of the current trends and what is to come down the line. So congratulations to you. If people want to learn more about what you do and what's going on with crypto equities, where can they go and what can they expect to find?
Yeah, I highly recommend that people go to our Telegram, which is t.me/crypto equities. If you don't have a Telegram, you can always go to cryptoequities.io for more information. And then just join our newsletter and our whitelist, and we'll keep you up to date on our progress as we move forward.
All right, sir. Chris, thanks for coming on crushthestreet.com with me today. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenneth, and have a great day.